Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. My name is Chinmaya and this video is part 1 of a 2-part series in which I will show you 6 cool and easy image tricks you can do with GIMP to create stunning graphics for your presentations and documents. In this part, that is part 1, we will cover the first 3 tricks: creating circular images, creating multi-tint images, and removing background from images. And in part 2, I will demonstrate the remaining 3 tricks. So let's get started. GIMP is a free and open source image editor like Photoshop, and you can download and install it by going to www.gimp.org, this site right here. Once you reach this website, just head to the download section, and as you scroll down, you will notice that GIMP is available for Linux, macOS, and Microsoft Windows. If you're using Microsoft Windows, as I am, all you need to do is to just come here and click on this orange button and GIMP will start downloading. The current version of GIMP that I am using is the latest version, that is 2.10.34. So just click on this orange button, GIMP will start downloading. And once the file is downloaded, just click on the downloaded file and follow screen instructions to install GIMP just like you would do for any other software. And when you start it, this is what you're going to see. And we'll take it up from here. Before I move forward, I just want to mention that this is not a complete GIMP tutorial. Rather, I have chosen 6 easy to do tasks that are very helpful, and I'll be showing you only the features that concern those particular tasks. I have put all the files that I will be using in this tutorial in a zip file, and you can download this follow along packet from the link in the description box below. So let's get started. So the first trick that I want to demonstrate is how to create a circular image. All of us are quite familiar with square or rectangular images, but with just a few clicks inside GIMP, you can convert these square and rectangular images to circular images with very artistic borders. And these images can add a lot of pep to any presentation or document. So let's see how we can create circular images inside GIMP. So let's say we were creating a presentation on sailing and we want to have a small circular image just to give an artistic touch to our cover slide. So to create that circular image, we can head to GIMP and just bring that image in. So as you open the follow along folder, you will find that in the first folder named circular image, there is an image called as sailboats. I'm just simply going to catch hold of that image and bring it and drop it in the image window inside GIMP. As I drop it, I get this dialog and I'm going to go ahead and click on convert. I have explained the reason for this in my previous video, the link for which is given in the description below. So just click on convert. So the image comes in. Now let's say we just want to create a small circular image of this particular area. So to do that, we will head to the GIMP toolbox, and here we want to select the ellipse select tool. So you can just come here to the select tools that are visible here. One of them is rectangle select tool. The shortcut is R, and the second one is the ellipse select tool, and the shortcut is E. So if you want to select it using the menu, hover your mouse on top of this icon and then just right click. So you will see this menu and you can select the ellipse select tool. Otherwise, you can just simply press the E button or the letter E and this tool will become active. So I'm just going to come here and click on this and you will see that the mouse has now a small circle here. So what I can do is I can just come here and drag my mouse with my left mouse button depressed and create a small circle here, and then I can just grab the center of this circle and reposition this and select the area that I want to include inside my circular image, which is this one single sailboat. So you will see that there is a small moving ants margin now that is visible here, and what this moving ants margin basically tells you is that everything inside this boundary has now been selected. It's part of the selection. So this is one way of creating a circle. There's another way of creating a circle, And that is using one of the options from this ellipse select tool. You will see here that there is a small checkbox for expand from center. So if I can just let this go away, I'm going to just press Control Shift and A. So this will unselect everything. And what I can do now is I can come here and check this expand from center. And I can now come to the center of my sailboat and then just simply move out and create a circle of interest. It is the exact same thing. I can once again move this selection area to position it exactly as I want it to be. The only difference when you check this expand from center checkbox is that you can actually just simply move out of the center and you will see a circle radiating outward. You will see here that the aspect ratio is 1:1, and this means that you will always get a perfect circle. So either ways, you can just make your selection. And if your interest was just to get a circular picture, you can, after selecting this area, press Ctrl C to copy, and then just simply head back to your presentation and paste it here, Ctrl V, or just simply right click and press paste. And you will see that the selected image is now part of your presentation. It doesn't have a border, and we will try to see how we can add an artistic border in a short while from now. And the same is true for LibreOffice Impress. All you need to do is just paste that image here, and that image will arrive here. You can then increase it or decrease it. And if you wanted to save this image, all you need to do is to right click on this image and press on save. And the same is also true for PowerPoint. Right click and save as picture. So it is so easy to create a circular image and use it inside your presentation. Now, there are a few other things that you can do here. And one of the things that you can do is you want to save this image right inside GIMP, such that it is not just a cut and paste, but a proper image that has been saved, and you can use it multiple times. So a few more steps will be required to convert this into a proper image. So what we want to do now is to get rid of all this area that is outside this particular circle. So currently on the screen, you are seeing that everything inside this circle is what has been selected. And this is evident from the moving ants border. Everything outside the circle is what you want to get rid of, because you don't want to retain this. You just want to retain the circle. So what we now need to do is to select the area outside the circle. So what we will do is we'll come to the select menu and we will invert this selection. So when we click on invert, you will see this border becoming the moving ants border, and indicating that everything between this moving ants border and that border is now selected. We have currently selected everything inside this circle. We are now going to invert that selection to select everything outside the circle. So I'm just going to come here and click on invert, and I would like you to just have a look at the border, which will start moving. So just click on invert. So you can now see that the border is also a moving ants border, and this is indicating that everything outside the circle has been selected. Now to get rid of all this, we have to press delete, or we can also come to edit and click on clear. Either way, the result is going to be exactly the same. All this portion will get deleted. But there is an important point and concept that I would like to demonstrate here. Let's just go ahead and click on delete. Everything outside the circle has now been deleted, but we have a small problem here. All the deleted portion is still part of this image, and it is having a white background. So this is not what we want. We want a transparent background because we want the image to not interfere with the background of the presentation as we have here. You know, these areas are not really having any background. So the presentation background is showing through these areas, and everything else is then just simply inside the circle. So that's what we want. So when we are trying to save this, this white background won't do. And you can imagine a normal image that we just imported as having a white sheet pasted behind this. So when you go ahead and delete the selected part of this image, the white sheet that was stuck behind this picture, hypothetically speaking, starts showing up. But what we want instead of the white sheet is having a glass sheet, such that we don't have a background and rather have a glass sheet at the back. And whenever we delete all this, the glass sheet starts showing up. And when that glass sheet is put on top of anything, the background of that thing starts showing up. So that's what is called as transparent background. I'm going to undo this, and let me just tell you how we can just insert that transparent glass sheet behind this picture. We will come here, and this is this image layer. We will right click on this and just add an alpha channel. So adding an alpha channel is actually like adding the glass sheet behind this picture and removing that white sheet that was stuck to this picture. I'm going to do that. Nothing really happens. But now when we delete this or come to edit and clear this, you will see that instead of the background showing as white, it's now showing a transparent background. All these little black and white squares are basically denoting a transparent background. So by adding the alpha channel, we have created a transparent background. So now let's see how we can put a border around this particular picture. To do that, I need to get rid of this selection here, the inverted selection. So what I can do is I can just come here and click on select and invert the selection one more time, indicating that I'm now not interested in the area outside the circle, but the circle itself. So this is one way of doing it. You'll now see that the moving ants border has disappeared from the edges and it has come back again to the central part of the image that we are trying to work on. So this is the only thing that has been selected. There's another way to do this. If, for example, you lose this selection, say, for example, if we come to select and by mistake press none, so that selection has now gone, what we can do is we can come to this layer and right click and just simply come here and choose alpha to selection. So when we do this, that selection is restored. Alpha to selection basically just simply ignores everything that is alpha or transparent, and then just simply comes here and selects everything that is part of the picture. So you can at any time come here and choose alpha to selection to select this particular circular part of the image. Now let's just simply go and add a boundary to it. So you can do that by clicking on edit and then coming down and clicking on stroke selection. So this basically is to create a boundary around the selected part of the picture. So I'm just going to come here and click on this. And there are two things that you can do here. One is to create a simple line border around this particular circle. So let's start with that. And we will just choose the stroke line checkbox here, make it active. And here you can just give the width of the line that will be placed around the circle. Let's do 15 pixels. You can reduce it or increase it as you want. And all we now need to do is to press the stroke button here. And a circle will be drawn around this particular picture. The color of the circle is decided by this particular color. This is the foreground color, which you are seeing currently in yellow. We can change it to any color by clicking on it and opting for one of these options and choosing a particular color. I think I'll just leave it at yellow. And this is the foreground color. This is the background color. And by default, this is black and white. So if you just come here, there's a small set of squares here, black and white. If you come here and click on it, this is reverted back to the default. If you want to change the foreground color, just click on this and come and choose a particular color. Press OK, choosing yellow. And then I will just come here and click on stroke. So you will immediately see a yellow border around this particular picture. Let me enlarge this a little bit such that we are able to see this a little more clearly. So you will see that there is a circular border around the image that we had created. And it's even extending beyond the selection moving ants border. So this is one way of putting a border. And let me just undo this, Control Z or Edit Undo. And we still have the selection, as we can see, using the moving ants border. We can do another more artistic effect here. So for that, we will need to choose a brush. So you will see that there is a selection of brushes here. If you are not able to see this, just click on the leftmost brushes button here. So you will be able to see this. Sometimes if you press something different, something else is visible here, just come and click on the brushes button. And I will choose this particular brush, just click on it. This is just above this yellow circular brush. So this is the brush that we will be using. So this is just telling us that we will be creating a border around this picture, but using this kind of a brush. So there are many different kinds of brushes that you can pick up, and you can try these later on. But I'm just picking up this one brush here. This brush is called as Pencil 150 into 50. So just look for this brush. This is just above the yellow circle right here. And when you click on this brush will be shown as Pencil 150. So I've just selected this brush, and this is my color. I'm going to come back to edit and do the exact same thing, stroke selection. But this time around, instead of choosing the stroke line, I'm going to choose the stroke with a paint tool. And instead of choosing paintbrush, I will now choose pencil. There are a lot of effects that you can try. I'm choosing pencil, and I'm going to go ahead and click on stroke. So remember, stroke with a paint tool and stroke using pencil. I've chosen this brush and this color. So just come here and click on stroke, and you will see a very artistic border around this particular circular image. You can always change the color of this border by just simply undo and changing this color to something different and pressing OK. And then just simply coming here and repeating that exact same thing. Just come here, stroke with the paint tool, choose pencil. You have chosen this particular brush and stroke. So you can have a different colored border around this particular image. I quite like my yellow border, so I'm just going to revert back to my yellow border, repeating the exact same thing, stroke. So now we have a yellow border around a circular image. And let me just zoom out a little bit and center this such that we can complete the next steps and save this particular image. Just a couple of steps remaining. So this picture is in the center. And what we now want to do is, if you examine closely, you will see that the selection is before this particular border. When this border was placed around this circular image, it has gone past the selection. So what we now need to do is, we can just simply come here and say alpha to selection. And this will now take the selection to the end of the yellow border. And now we are all set and ready. So let me just show you the last step before we save. So here you can see that while this image is in the center, this is also part of the image. This is the canvas. So we want to bring this canvas to the selection. So what we are going to do now is to come to image and then just simply go ahead and click on fit canvas to selection. So this is just to bring all this close and around this particular picture, such that that's the only thing that we will be actually saving, and not have a very little tiny circular figure in the center of this big image. So just come to image and click on fit canvas to selection. So we will click on this. So you will see that the canvas has now fitted this particular selection. If you double click on this, you will see the entire image here. We are all set. The corners are transparent. We have a nice border right here. So we will now go and export this image and save this image. Click on File, Export As, choose a folder, give it a name. I'm going to call it Sales Boat Circular. And just make sure that if this was a JPG image, you are putting in PNG after the dot. So you want to save it as a PNG image, because JPG images cannot store transparency, and we have an alpha channel transparent layer here. So you have to make sure that the extension is PNG. So we are all set. Click on export and then export once again. And that image has now been saved. If we go back to our folder, you will see that the circular image with a very artistic yellow border has now been included here. And if we come here and remove this, we can just simply bring this image and drop it here. And you will see that it is transparent and it is looking extremely attractive on this dark background. and it's given a great boost to this cover slide that I was trying to make. And this is how you can create circular images with artistic borders. You can try with other brushes also if you wanted to, but then this is the basic procedure. And using this technique, you can create many circular artistic images, giving them circular borders or artistic borders in different colors. Trick number two. Trick number two is about adding a multi-tone tint to an image. If suppose we have a picture like this, we can easily transform this picture to a picture like this, which adds a few multi-tone tints to this particular image. And this gives a very artistic feel that can lift up documents and presentations. It can also be used for covers on which you can type text. Very, very artistic effect. Let's see how we can do this inside GIMP. So to create the multi-tone tint effect, let's head to the tutorial images folder and click on folder number 2, multi-tone tint, right here. You will see that it has one image. Let's grab that image and bring it inside GIMP, drop it in the Windows area, and you have this image. Now we are going to make use of a tool here. And to access this tool, we're going to come here and look for this bucket fill tool. And you will see that there is an additional tool in this group called as gradient. And the shortcut for the gradient tool is G. So you can either come here, right click and choose the gradient tool from here, or otherwise just simply press G on your keyboard to activate this particular tool. I'm going to come and click on this. And as you can see, the gradient tool is now active. And you can now see that the mouse cursor, which is showing as a cross here, has a small rectangle indicating that the gradient tool is now active. So what you see here in this area are the tool options for the gradient tool. This area shows you the tool options for any tool that you would select. Say, for example, if I was selecting the rectangle select tool, and if I click here, you will see options for the rectangle select tool here. So likewise, when we click this, we are seeing the options for the gradient select tool. So we're going to make a few choices here. In the shape category, we will come here and choose radial. You can experiment with others later on as well. But for this demonstration, I'm going to choose radial. And a good point to start is to click on this square of color. You will see quite a few options right here. And the one that I want you to choose is FG to BG RGB, this one. So we can use this as a starting point. Later on, when you understand how this works, you can make a different choice and do this in another way. So in this particular case, you can also type here. If you type FG, you will see all these choices. And this is the one that I would like you to make here, FG to BG. And if you are just seeing here, you can see that my colors, the foreground color is yellow and the background color is white. So what colors you see in this gradient are dependent on what is selected as the foreground or background color. So for example, if I was to click on this and choose a red color, you will see that this gradient changes to red. And if I come back here and click on my yellow color, this will change back again to yellow. So the key thing is that we want to start with FG to BG RGB irrespective of the color. So if you're not seeing yellow or white, it'll just be the colors that have been chosen here. It really doesn't matter. Just make sure that it is FG to BG RGB. So we are now all set to create a gradient. And just to quickly summarize, the shape is set to radial and the opacity is 100. And we have chosen FG to BG RGB option here in gradient. It really doesn't matter what color this represents. So what I'm going to do now is to come here and click out of the edge of this photograph. And then drag this right across to the other edge. So you will see some color tints appearing here. And this color is going from yellow towards white. Now what I'm going to do is, as you move on this line, we are going to create a few stops just to change the color of the gradient. So I'm going to come here and click on this, and this really depends upon you. There's no hard and fast rule where you should click. Then I'm going to go down and click one more time, and I can come here and click just one more time. So we have a few stops. You can have just two. I have put three just to demonstrate. And these are called as stops. So when you click on a stop, this says stop 1. When you click on this stop, this says stop 2. And when you click on this stop, it says stop 3. This is also a stop. This is the end point, and this is the starting point when you click on these. Now, when you are traveling from a stop on this line, right in the middle, you find a small dot. And this is the first dot. So I'm going to click on this, and this is midpoint 1. So what we are going to do now is we are going to change the blending from linear to step. Likewise, we are going to come down and move forward. Between these two stops, as you move on this line, you're going to find another midpoint. Click on it, and this is midpoint 2. We are going to come here and again choose step. We'll go further down, and we are meeting another midpoint. This is midpoint 3. I'm going to come here and again click on step. So this is the third step. And I can come here, and down here I have another midpoint. This is midpoint 4. I'm going to do the same. Choose step. So these are 4 midpoints that I've converted into steps. Now let me just quickly change the colors of these bands. So I'm going to come here and click on my first stop, and you will see that this is some shade of yellow. So I'm going to click on the left color and choose something like very bluish. So something like this, a little stronger, and click on OK. Likewise, I'm going to come here and click on my stop 2, go to left color, click on this, and choose something different, maybe something like bright red. And then I'm going to come here to my third band and click on it, stop 3, left color, and let me choose a very bright green. So that's here. And I can click on this midpoint and drag it a little further. So you can see this here. And then I can come to the last point here, click on it, and choose this part of the color, maybe something like very deep magenta or something of that kind. So we have put this here. And you can also grab hold of this and push this a little forward. You can click on a midpoint and move these bands just to make them approximately the same width, something like this, and increase this one. This is the yellow one. And if you wanted to change this color, you'll have to come here and click on this particular point, the start end point, and make this into a different kind of color, maybe a little darker yellow or whatever else. So these colors are completely your choice. And once you have all of these colors set, then all you need to do is to come to the tool options and just reduce the opacity. So as you keep reducing the opacity, you have this really nice tinted shade on the original image, and you can use this for any slide cover or whatever you want. And you can just simply move this forward to have a little more color, or bring it down to have a little less color. And you can add a few more colors if you wanted to, but then this is how you can actually create this multi-tone tint shade on top of an image. Now, once you are done, just come and click here and press enter. So the moment you press enter, this line is going to go away, and then you can make absolutely no changes to this particular image. These tints will then become final. So I'm going to come and click here and press enter, and that's done. So if you wanted, you can play around with this a little more. If you wanted to type in some text, you can just come here and click on the text tool and start typing. You will see some options here. You can choose a font from here as well. Just click on this and click on a font. I've chosen Script Empty Bold. Just click on it. So you will see that font appear here. You can alter the size. You can change the color. Just click on the text tool and then just come to your picture, click here, and then start typing. And there you are. If you want to change the color or change the size of this, just click on this and just go ahead and click Control A to select all the letters, and then just come here and click on a different color. And likewise, you can make changes to the font type or font size, etc. So what you can also do is play around with the shape. If you recall, the last time we went from this edge and we had dragged it all the way to this particular edge. So I'm unselecting that. What you can also do is come from this edge and drag it to this particular edge. Control Z to undo, or come from here and go towards this side. That choice is entirely up to you. I am undoing it once again. You can come here and choose linear and move from this edge to that edge to create a different pattern if you wanted to. What you can also do is to choose square and maybe start from the center and then move out, something like this. So you can make a whole range of different tints and shapes on this particular image. You don't need to start from the edge. You can also start from the center if you wanted to. Come here and then just simply go ahead and create a shape. If you don't want to do the colors yourself, you can always come here and pick from any of these presets. For example, if I wanted to put a rainbow, I can just come here and click on this preset and then go from here to here and have a certain tint to my particular image. Or for that matter, come here and choose something different and then drag it right across. So you can play around with all these different colors and features and see what fits you best. For now, let's revert back to our old image. And now to save this image, I just have to go to File and then Export As. So I'm going to just name this as Boat in Ocean 1, and it's going to go into the same folder, Export, and then click Export one more time. And when you visit the folder, you'll find that you have this image inside your folder, and you can click on it to see it inside the viewer. I'm going to do just that. So click on this, and here's your nicely tinted image. This was the original image, and this is the tinted image that you are now having. And you can use this for some kind of cover or a title slide or anything that you desire to use it for. Trick number 3 is a very useful thing to learn, and that is how to remove background in an image. Many of us would have faced such kind of a requirement at some point. I'm quite aware that these days there are quite a few online tools that help you do this quite easily, but there can be situations where you are not very comfortable sharing images for privacy concerns with online platforms, or otherwise the online tool is unable to do the job satisfactorily. So you can remove backgrounds quite easily using GIMP completely offline. So from an image like this, which has a complex background, if we wanted to extract just the boy, we can do that quite easily inside GIMP, and we can just remove the background and extract the feature of interest. So GIMP has a few methods using which you can remove backgrounds. So let's go ahead and see how we can remove backgrounds inside GIMP. Let's open the tutorial images folder. And this time around, we're going to click on the third folder, remove background. And you will see that there are 3 images. And I will try to show you 3 cases of removing backgrounds. This is not a complete tutorial on removing backgrounds, but then this should give you a fair amount of idea. Let's bring in the closed window picture inside GIMP. So just simply grab hold of this picture and then come here and drop it. And just click on Convert to bring the picture inside GIMP. So this is case number 1 where you are seeing that we have an image, and let's say we are making a presentation and we want to extract just this window for our presentation, and we want to remove the red background. So this background is kind of uniform color. So this is the easiest to remove because the background is comprising of only one single tone and color. But if you look carefully, you will see that this part of the image is lighter red as compared to this part of the image, which is a darker shade of red. So you can encounter such kind of problems. But when the background is of a uniform color or uniformish color, they are the easiest to remove. So the first great tool that GIMP provides for removing such kind of backgrounds is the fuzzy select tool. Just come here to the toolbox and you will see this little rod or the wand with a little star at the top. So just click on it and you will see that your mouse cursor, which you are seeing now with the plus sign, is having that magic wand. So this indicates that the fuzzy select tool has been selected and it is active. And these are the options for the tool here. The important option being here is the threshold. So what you can do is, once you have selected the fuzzy select tool, just come here and click on the red part. So you will immediately see that it has separated the window and it has also separated the background. There is a moving ants border at the end of the picture, and the same is also here just surrounding the window that you want to extract. But there's a little problem here. It's unable to see the same kind of color towards the edge. This part doesn't seem to be selected. So what you can do is you can come here and increase the threshold value. So if you just come here and keep your left mouse button depressed, you will see what has been selected, and you can increase this selection by increasing the threshold value, which is currently at 54.2. You can come here and increase this and then come back here and click. So now you can see that this has also been selected. And you can do the exact same thing, that is increase the threshold value or decrease the threshold value by keeping your mouse button depressed and then just simply moving it right to increase the value and left to decrease the value. And this is when the left mouse button is kept depressed. So just keep moving right to increase this value. And you can now see that the complete background has been selected. And the same also happens if you move your mouse up or down, keeping the left key depressed. So once you're happy with the selection, we just want to remove this particular part. And as you can see, we have a moving ants border on the edge of the picture and also on the edge of the window. And all we need to do now before we remove this background is to right click on the layer and add an alpha channel. You will recall from our previous example that by adding an alpha channel, we are virtually adding a glass sheet under this layer. And once we remove this red part, we will have a transparent background underneath it. So once everything is selected, just go ahead and press delete or go to edit and click on clear. And you will see that the background has now been removed very, very easily. The same can also be done by using right click on the fuzzy select tool, and you can also select by color. So this is exactly the same kind of selection. Instead of choosing the fuzzy select tool, you can choose the select by color tool. Because the whole background is of the same color, you can click on the background and it will try to select everything. If not, then you can increase the threshold value. So these two tools work in a similar way. I prefer to use the fuzzy select tool because it has more intelligence built into it. We can still see some little red splotch at the edge of the window. We'll deal with it in a second. Currently, the image is including a lot of background. Let's shrink this background closer to the size of the window. So what we will do now is we will unselect this edge and everything, in fact. So let's first unselect everything. I'm going to come here, select and do none. So everything gets unselected. Let's reselect the window part. So just come and right click on the layer and click on alpha to selection. So this once again selects the window part, but it has not selected the edge part. And then you can come here to image and fit canvas to selection. So all this is the canvas, and we want to fit the canvas to the selection, which is the window or very close to it. So just come here and click on Fit Canvas to Selection. And when you do that, you have a much smaller image now. And let's just zoom in a little bit. You can zoom in by pressing the Control button and moving the wheel of your mouse, or put in a value here, or choose a value from here. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit such that you can see things a little more clearly. There are some red edges here, so we can keep repeating the same thing. We have the fuzzy select tool already selected, and we can just come here and click on the edge. Let's zoom in a bit, click on the edge. So it is selected this shade of red, and delete it. Be just a little bit careful when you're working with edge pixels, because it might start eating into the edge. So once you're happy with this, you can export this image. Let me just show you one other tool that might be helpful sometimes. If there were very few pixels and you wanted to get rid of them, this is just an example. You can also pick up this eraser tool here and select the size of the eraser. When you come here, you will see this big circle, and I can make this very small and still smaller, and so on and so forth. So once you get the right size, you can then come here and also manually remove some of these pixels. So you can use the rubber, but just be careful because you might be eating into the edge. But this is a useful tool. If you don't want the tool to act very harshly on the image, you can reduce the hardness and the force. So this is an additional tool that you can use. In this particular case, there is actually no need for it. I'm pressing Ctrl+Shift+J to have my full image in view. And I can just come here and click on File and Export As, and then just simply name it as closed window 1. And because we are using an alpha channel, let's change this name to PNG. We need to do that. Just go ahead and click on Export. Otherwise, this transparency will not be saved. So once we have renamed the file as PNG, that's close window 1.png, just come to Export, and one more time click on Export. And when you open this, you should be able to see just your closed window. And if you wanted to use this on a presentation, let's open a presentation. We can just simply bring in this window and drop it here, and there we go. So we have this window here, and all the background has been nicely removed. Let's now look at case number 2, and let's take another single color background and see some nuances and have a look at a trick. So now I'm starting afresh, and I've removed the previous image from the GIMP window, and I'm going to bring in my second image here, pink background bubble. Just grab it and drop it here and click on Convert. So you have this image inside GIMP. Now we want to just simply select these 3 bubbles, and we want to remove this background. And we know how we can do this using the fuzzy select tool. As we want to get rid of the background, a possible natural attempt could be to select the background and then delete it, such that we are left only with these 3 bubbles, as we did in the last case. But the problem here is that while you see that this is pink, it is seemingly of the same shade, but you can see that there are lots of different shades on this particular background. Some parts are light, and some parts are dark, and some parts are in between. There's also a shadow. So if you start selecting this kind of a background, even though it appears to be like pinkish, it will be a very difficult task. In this particular case, why not select the bubbles, because they seem to be of a uniform color. So what we can do is, we have selected our fuzzy select tool right here, and we can just come here and click on the first bubble. So you will see that because this bubble is of a uniform color, you can select this bubble quite easily using the fuzzy select tool. Now we want to add the other bubbles, and this is an important extension of the fuzzy select tool. If you click on the second bubble, you will lose the first bubble. The selection on the first bubble has now gone. So if you want to add to your selection and not lose what you have done previously, for example, if I was to click here this bubble will get selected, but the previous one has now become unselected. So if you're using the fuzzy select tool and if you want to keep adding to your selection, just press the shift key and then click on the next bubble. So the previous bubble selection remains, the next bubble has been added, and we can come here and repeat the same. Keep the shift key on your keyboard pressed down and click on the last bubble. So we have now selected all the 3 bubbles. So what we have done now here is, instead of removing the pink background, we have now selected what we are interested in, and we will just simply come to select and invert this selection. So everything that is now outside these bubbles has now been selected, as you can see with the moving ends border around the edges. And then we can just simply go ahead and delete it. But then you will recall from the previous examples that we will start seeing a white background. If I was to press delete here, you will see a white background. This is not what we want. So I'm going to undo this, Control Z, and I will come here and right click on my layer and add an alpha channel, which is like putting a glass sheet underneath this, and then coming here and pressing delete or edit clear, whatever suits you. And you will now see that the whole background has gone away. And we actually did not select the background, but rather selected what we wanted and then inverted and removed the background. So we can now just simply fit the canvas to the image. And to do that, because the background is also selected at this time, we need to first get rid of this selection. Select none, and we will come back to our layer and click alpha to selection, just to make sure that we are selecting only the bubbles here. Just come to image and choose fit canvas to selection. So once you do that, your canvas is now fitted around the image as closely as possible. And then just simply go ahead and export as, and once again, we will export it as a PNG. And we will just give this pink background bubble 1 and export. Hit export one more time and your file will be exported to your folder. So when we open this folder, you will see that this image is now saved here. And let's open our presentation, open the folder, just simply drag and drop it on your cover slide and then reposition it or resize it. And there you go. So you have now all the bubbles that you had selected as a transparent image on your presentation slide or inside your document or a flyer, whatever you are wanting to do. You can export features of interest in this fashion. So this example tells us that sometimes it might be better to choose what you want, because that is in uniform color, and then invert the selection and remove the background, rather than spending a lot of time choosing various shades of the background, which appear to be in a similar color, but then actually they are having very different shades. So let's now go ahead and have a look at the third and the final case, where we want to extract a feature from an image which has a complex background. That is, the background in the image is not uniform or of one color, and how we can extract a feature from such an image. Let's go ahead and have a look. So I've removed the previous image and I'm starting afresh, and I'm going to grab this image, boy, and bring it here and drop it on my GIMP image window. And you will see this image appear inside the window. As you can see, the background here is pretty complex. It has lots of different features. We are interested to extract only this boy here. So how do we do this? We cannot use the fuzzy select tool and keep selecting the background. We cannot even select the feature of interest here, because there are so many different kinds of shades inside the feature of interest. There's a red cap, there's skin of a different color, the shirt is of a different color. So how do we remove the background in such kind of cases? Well, there are quite a few ways in GIMP that can be used to remove this kind of a background. The broad idea here is to use a tool, demarcate a boundary manually around the feature of interest, and then just simply delete the background. Now, how do you do this? For this, I recommend that we come to this particular tool set. This is the free select tool set. And in this group, you will see that there is a tool called as Scissor Select. The keyboard shortcut for Scissor Select is keyboard button I or the letter I, or right click on this and then come here and click on Scissor Select. There are many other tools that can be used to do this, for example, like the Path tool, but I recommend using the Scissor Select tool. So once you do this, you will see that the cursor has now changed, and the mouse cursor that you are seeing with the plus sign is now having a small scissor, indicating that the Scissor Select tool has now been selected. So what we are going to do now is, you can start from any point, just zoom in a little bit. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, and you can move this image up or down using this slider. So as you keep moving forward, you can come back and move this slider. And I'm going to do this a little quickly, but as you can understand, if you spend more time, you can do this perfectly. So start from any particular point, click here, so you'll see a point added, and then just keep moving around the edges. This is a great tool because it has some intelligence built in, and it will just keep finding the edges. So you can keep moving close to the edges. If, for example, you make a mistake, you can just press the backspace key on your keyboard and it will move behind. Press it one more again, it will move behind one more point. And then you can keep moving around the edges. And don't be too finicky about selecting everything in the first go. We can always improve this. So just keep moving as I'm doing this, and I'll do this a little quickly such that I don't waste a lot of time, and keep moving forward. Don't worry too much about an area that has not been properly selected at this particular stage. Just keep moving. If it's a straight line, you can just keep covering larger distances. This tool will keep hugging the edge of the picture quite nicely. So just keep moving. And I'm doing this a little fast such that I don't consume a lot of time demonstrating this. I'm going to slide down and keep moving forward. So you can see a nice boundary is being created around the picture. We are zoomed in quite a lot, so you can understand that at these zoom levels, if you leave out something, they would not be visible on the image if you are using this on a slide or something. So just keep moving forward, and you can keep adding more points, but we will revisit this in just a few seconds. So don't be too worried if you're not able to do this perfectly. Backspace and add an extra point to follow the contours. Come here. You can leave out some little bits if you wanted to. Come here, let me include this little lock of hair that is protruding out. Move this up a little bit. Keep moving forward. Just clicking on the outer edge of the cap. And the scissor tool is nicely hugging to the edge of what I'm trying to select. Just keep moving forward. Backspace, put a point closer, one in the furrow, and then move forward. And when you reach the last point, just click over the last point. So we have now selected the feature of interest. We can now revisit and just simply grab hold of something and move this point up and down the line to make it fit more closely. Say, for example, if this is the area that I wanted to select, I can also add a point. Just click on the line somewhere. A new point will be added, and then you can just simply drag it and make it fit a little more nicely. So the amount of time that you spend, this is eating into the cap. So I'm going to add a point here and then bring it right here. You can add a point quite easily just by simply clicking on the line, and a point will be added, and then you can drag it forward or backward. So, and we can also move these points along the line such that the fitting is perfect. So just examine this image. I'm not going to waste a lot of time doing this. If I wanted to add a point here, I'm just coming onto the line, clicking on it, and then moving this line a little bit out to make sure that it's hitting the edge properly. So you will not have to do this a lot, but if you wanted to do this, you can do this quite easily. So you can just drag this, add a point, drag this closer, add a point, drag this closer, and make sure that the outline is hugging the edge. So once you're happy with this, you can just press enter to make this into a selection. So the moment you press enter, you will see that the points are now gone. And let us just press Ctrl Shift J to have our full image. And we have made a great selection for this feature of interest. And the rest is exactly the same as before. Once we have made this selection manually, we will come to select and invert to select everything that is outside the area of selection or the feature of interest. And let's now come to our layer, right click on the layer and add an alpha channel, which will place a glass sheet under this image. And when we delete the background, we will have a transparent layer underneath it. So now you can see the moving ants image and the moving ants image over the feature of interest. So this is indicating that everything outside this area has been selected. And we can just press the delete button or click on edit and clear. So the background has now gone, and all we need to do is to fit this canvas to this particular image such that we can get rid of all the extra parts. And to do that, we will have to first unselect the edges. Currently, the moving ants border is seen here. So we'll come here to select and choose none. So everything is unselected. And now we will just select the boy. So right click on the layer and add alpha to selection as we have done before. To just simply select the feature of interest, come to image and then click fit canvas to selection. So all this canvas part will then simply hug the image. So come to image and click on fit canvas to selection. And there you go. And all we need to do now is to come to file and export. And remember once again that we will export this as a PNG file. And I'm going to name this as boy1. Hit export. And when you open your folder, you will see this image right here. And let's open our presentation and open the folder and drag and drop this image on the cover slide. And you can now see how nicely we have extracted the feature of interest from a complex background using manual selection. So we can just come here and move this, and there we go. So this is how, using the scissor select tool, you can just manually draw a boundary around a feature of interest and then just invert the selection and delete it and have a nice transparent background around the feature of your interest from an image. And we have, as you can see, removed a very complicated background through manual selection. So this is how you can remove backgrounds of images in GIMP. So this concludes part 1. In part 2 of this series, I will demonstrate the remaining 3 tricks: clone and heal images, creating icon files, and performing a fantastic transformation on images in GIMP. I hope this video was useful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video, that is part 2 of this series. Many thanks for watching.